There we go. Hey everybody, it's Andy, aka Max Writer. We are back with another uh, live stream. Ooh, let me make sure my volume is working. It is awesome. So today we're going to do another solo game. Today we've got the Pendragon Starter Set. Got this a few weeks ago, and we'll be playing here. Here, you can see it better here. There it is. The Pendragon Starter Set. We'll be playing the introductory adventure, The Adventure of the Sword in the Stone. So um, this is a Chaosium product. You can get them at www.chaosium.com. Let me try to get this thing so it's right. And I've only looked through this enough to figure out uh, that I was going to need a character sheet. Well, a faux character sheet, I guess I should say, because when you buy something for Chaosium, you also get a free PDF, which I think is great. It's grand. So I was able to pull up the PDF. Here's our character sheet. And as it has different layers or levels, I don't know what they're called exactly in the PDF. I can pull out the the background color. I don't know if you can tell that this is kind of like brown. You can see the difference. And then that saves me a little bit of ink. So if you don't want to buy the starter set, you can always buy the PDF. And if you buy the starter set, the physical copy, which is in a beautiful, very solid box. I mean, the boxes that they produce stuff in now are really solid. The boxes back in the 80s and 90s were a little flimsy. I mean, they were pretty solid, but it was easy to damage them. I have a beer here. We're drinking Hershey's Chocolate Porter. I have a few of these left. Our local grocery store used to carry them, and then now they don't. So I've got we've got clipboard, so we can keep track of everything that happens. And we're going to be starting this solo adventure is to introduce you to the game, is my understanding. I looked through it enough just to see there was a character sheet was going to be needed, and then I stopped because I wanted this to be a surprise. So we are on the solo quest. Let's see what it says. The adventure of the Sword and the Stone takes place in the fantastical world of Greg Stafford's Pendragon role-playing game. Although you normally play Pendragon with one or more friends, for this adventure all you need is a pencil, haha, some dice, oh, and your wits. Uh-oh. That could be bad. This could be bad. I gotta look at the camera. I keep looking at my face on the screen. I suppose I could lower this down a little, but I don't want to go too low because I want to see. I'm recording and I'm streaming at the same time. You're playing the part of a page serving in the household of a kindly aged knight named Sir Ector. That would be King Arthur's wart, at least as far as the Sword and the Stone by T.S. White goes. His manor lies nestled in the wilds of modern-day Wales in a tiny kingdom called Penlyn. Pages are young boys and girls between the ages of 7 and 14 who learn the ways of courtly life by observing their elders and doing menial tasks for them. After serving as pages, most girls become handmaidens to ladies, though some may pursue a martial path and become squires. Boys almost always become squires, though the runts and borns of the family are sometimes sent off to the priesthood. Now that you are 14, you are among those pages at court who dream of soon becoming squires to great and noble knights. Here's a quote from Malory's La Morte d'Arthur. And when matins and first mass was done, there was seen in the churchyard against the high altar a great stone, 4 foot 4 square, like unto a high altar, no, like unto a marble stone, and in the midst thereof was like an anvil of steel, a foot on high, and therein stuck a fair sword, naked by the point. All right, so back to this. Sir Ector has 2 squires in his service, his sons Kay and Arthur. Squires study the ways of knighthood while they serve. Those who are confident in themselves show promise, and who have the right connections may become knights. Most remain squires after age 21 and are called esquires to indicate that they are not in service to a specific knight. Kay is an accomplished squire, brave and brash, and is due to be knighted soon, as he is only too happy to remind anyone who will listen. Sir Ector says Britain will need many more knights with strong arms like Kay's in the years to come. For these are dark times indeed. I'm leaning way too far in. Let's move this up a bit. There we go. For these are dark days, times indeed. The land has fallen into anarchy and despair. The last High King of Britain, Aurelius Ambrosius, died 30 years ago. His brother, Uther, ruled for 15 years after that from the mighty kingdom of Logres, but never achieved the coveted title of High King. He died along with most of the nobility of Logres over the course of one fateful evening, victims all of foul Saxon treachery. That was 14 years ago, when you were still in your mother's belly. Except for that brief, blessed time, you have never known a wholly peaceful world. Raids from the hill folk of the Cambrian interior, border skirmishes with neighboring petty kingdoms, and Irish reivers from the sea trouble your land, particularly in recent years. Logres, they say, may fall to Saxon invaders at any time, its warlords too busy squabbling amongst themselves to mount an effective defense against the barbarians. Britain cries out for a new High King, for the return of strength, unity, and stability. But here in Penlyn, on Sir Ector's estate, these troubles seem far away now. A brisk autumn breeze riles up your hair as you step out of the manor hall and spot Arthur and Kay getting set for quintum practice. If only you could join them. All right. So we got to read the following sections to get oriented, and then proceed to the first numbered passage and start reading. First numbered passage is on page 7. Following the prompts based on your decisions to do other numbered passages in the text. So, choose your own adventure / solo scenario. This freaking chair keeps moving. Well, there's a weird bump here. That's the problem. Where the old floor meets the new floor. At times you're instructed to make dice rolls, both for your own character and sometimes on behalf of another. The outcomes of these rolls will also guide you to other numbered passages. Through a combination of choice and luck, you will eventually reach the end of the adventure. At that point, you proceed through a point scoring system to see just what kind of a knight you will eventually become, ranging from a wandering mercenary who promises their sword to the highest bidder, all the way to a chivalrous peer of the legendary Round Table. Ooh, that would be cool. Oh, my leg is really bothering me. So, Pendragon is set in a mythical version of the Dark Ages Britain. It is Greg Staffer's unique synthesis of centuries of Arthurian tales, a vision of history informed by medieval scholars and troubadours, by Sir Thomas Malory and Edmund Spenser, by romantic novelists like Tennyson, and by more contemporary visions from popular literature and cinema. All these stories have contributed to this legendary game setting. Now, imagine this is the year of our Lord, 509. Let's write that down. 509. Britain is a large, verdant island surrounded by turbulent seas and consisting of 5 geographical regions. The north, beyond Hadrian's Wall, Cambria and Cornwall to the west and south, respectively, Cumbria in the middle, and Logres to the southeast. Some smaller islands sit off its coast, and the big island of Ireland lies just to the west. Britain is riddled with many navigable streams and rivers, and its coasts boast many fine natural harbors. Much of the land is hilly and covered in dense ancient forests, some rumored to be haunted. Deadly beasts like the fierce British lions and panthers have kept the woods dangerous. Lions? Okay, well, yeah. Even where crumbling old Roman roads cross them. Deeper into the heartlands and marshes live dragons whose occasional sallies wreak terrible havoc upon nearby settlements. Excuse me. Other portions of the forest are set aside as hunting grounds for kings and their followers, who fight monsters more than they fear them. The people of Britain self-define themselves as one of 5 distinct cultures: Cymric, Irish, Pict, Roman, or Saxon, and have divided themselves into scores of tiny warring kingdoms, some, like Penlyn, of no greater size than a valley. The most powerful of them all is the Kingdom of Logres. It occupies most of southeastern Britain and holds 3 of the largest remaining Roman cities. Now, in these dark times, enemies converge upon Logres from all sides. Her warlords vie for supremacy, and her few allies fear her imminent collapse. Pendragon Britain is a land of adventure and danger, of scheming lords and ambitious ladies, of great passions and glorious deeds, of mysterious castles and strange hidden kingdoms, and of savage beasts lurking in shadowy green woods. It is a fabled realm waiting for you to explore. Alright, so there are 2 types of dice in Pendragon. The 20-sided die. Alright, let's grab my d20. And the 6-sided die. I got a bunch of 6-sided dice. I thought this was using percentiles. Use a d20 to resolve actions as well as test your character's morals and beliefs in times of crisis. d6 is most often used to determine damage dealt in combat. I've got some extra six-sideds here just in case I need them. Um, Stories of King Arthur and his knights and ladies are filled with characters consumed by their passions and driven by their emotions for good or ill. Throughout the course of this adventure, and later when you play Pendragon with your friends, you'll find your character's personality at times driving the narrative in surprising directions. Much enjoyment is thus derived from trying to get yourself out of trouble of your own devising. Okay, I like that actually. This touches on the central question underlying all gameplay in Pendragon, finding out what kind of knight you really are. Glory and honor. The measure of all knights is taken by their glory and honor values. Glory is the measure of the knight's notoriety and fame. Okay, I'm looking at the character sheet and I'm trying to see if I can see anything here. But we're going to have to create a character. It's partially done here. They've already got the stats. Holy crap, my base damage is 4d6. Alright, I got plenty of six-sided dice over here. I got 5, so I guess just enough. Glory is a measure of a knight's notoriety and fame. It only increases with time and is not tied to the knight's inherent moral character. Knights like Sir Agravain or Sir Bruce Sanspiti are infamous for their rotten personalities and questionable behavior, but both achieve high glory values. Honor, on the other hand, may fluctuate quite a bit over the course of a knight's lifetime and is dependent upon their behavior. Some actions increase honor, many others decrease it. Honor is a precious commodity and must be closely guarded. For, if a knight's honor ever falls too low, they lose their status and place in society. During this adventure, you will keep track of the actions that would normally earn you glory if you were a knight, as well as your honor value. You do this by placing checks in the boxes next to the indicated skills. Okay. Skills, personality traits, and passions. Passions. Oh, okay. I've played Pendragon a couple times. I ran a first edition game to play test it to write a review in Knights of the Dinner Table magazine. And then in the last few years, I think I've played one or two other scenarios. Yeah, I'm pretty certain it was two. With some people, and the guy that ran really knew Pendragon. He used to run for um, he ran for Chaosium at conventions, and he really knew his stuff, and he was a lot of fun to play for. Uh, they were fun. It's a good game. Let's see. Let's see. Keep track of it. Placing checks. Each box may only be checked once. If you were to check earlier in the adventure, any further instructions to check the box are ignored. I've got to stretch my legs. Sorry. And there's so many wires down here below me that I don't want to mess everything up. After completing the adventure, you will find instructions on how to tally everything up based on your checks and find out what kind of knight your young character will eventually grow up to become. Dealing and taking damage. As noted earlier, you roll multiple six-sided dice to determine how much damage is done in combat. Sometimes you add a set number to the total, such as 2d6 plus 4, when adding brawling with a quarterstaff. Other times, like when you throw a punch, you simply apply a set number of points of damage, usually between 4 and 5, depending on your size and strength. Brawling damage, 5. Okay. Armor protects against damage. I don't see any armor on this sheet. But whatever gets through is deducted from the character's hit points. So armor soaks, which I like. Once hit points fall below the character's unconscious threshold, mine is 7. Hit points, max 27, it says. Unconscious is 7. Interesting. The character is incapacitated. If hit points ever reach 0 or less, the character is dying. Although combat is not the focus of the scenario, there are certain paths you may take that lead to combat. In such circumstances, you must keep track of both your own hit points and those of your opponent, as well as make all dice rolls on your opponent's behalf. Fair enough. Your character. The character sheet, boom, is provided with this scenario. This is a simplified version of the standard Pendragon character sheet, representing your character as a 14-year-old page about to become a squire. You have benefited from a lifetime of active and passive instruction in the traditions of your Cymric culture. We are Cymric. Is that written on here? Let's note it. Cymric. Christian religion and the duties of knights and nobles. Give your character a name. They may be any gender. All children of nobility serve as pages, and some girls choose then to go on as a career as squires and eventually knights. If you're having trouble coming up with a name, think of examples from literary history. Some suggestions are, here's a list of, and I'm just going to take the first one. I think, which is Aeddan. 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 He is a male. This is going to be a guy. I'll play a guy. Characteristics are your physical attributes. You have no notable strengths or weaknesses. My attributes are size 12, dex 12, strength 12, con 15, and appearance 12. How these function in play will be covered through events in the scenario, but note that they also determine your derived characteristics such as hit points, movement rate, and so forth. Okay. Next, look at the personality traits. Oh, traits. Okay. Often written simply as traits. These quantify and guide your character's actions. All traits come in pairs with two values that sum to 10. Oh, I have to put these in. Okay. There's the box for checks. Oh, wait. Oh, stretching the leg. That leg is really bugging me today. Sorry, everybody. You know what? Let's get up just another hair. I'll push this back just a bit. Oh, you can see the fan. I feel like if you can see the fan, you can see too much, which is stupid. With two values that sum up to. Oh, wait a minute. All traits come in pairs of values that sum up to 20. I think I read that as 10 before. The values of each are written on opposite sides of the slash. For instance, like 13, 7. Mm-hmm. As one trait rises, the other falls by an equal amount. 14, 6. Okay. 15, 5, and so on. The character tends to act according to the trait. The bold personality traits are called your religious traits. That is chaste, forgiving, merciful, modest, spiritual, and temperate. They are opposed by lustful, vengeful, cruel, proud, worldly, and indulgent. Spiritual or worldly. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and represent the values most important to your religion. Other traits, those marked with a star, are particularly important to knights. Energetic, generous, just, modest is marked, and valorous. Um, you may now customize your trait values. All traits start with a base value of 10. Your religion trait, your religious traits each gain a bonus of plus 3 points. Remember, this reduces the ops trait by 3 points as well. Your valorous trait begins at 15. Okay, so hold on. See, these all start at 10, 10. Okay, except for religious traits are all going to start at 13. The religious are the bold ones, so we'll start them at 13. Chaste, 13. Forgiving, 13. Merciful is 13. Modest, 13. Spiritual, 13. And temperate is 13. And valor starts at 15. Everything else is 10. I'm 10 energetic, 10 generous, 10 honest, 10 just, 10 prudent, and 10 trusting. And then we figure out the other ones. I'm only a 7 lustful, 10 lazy, 7 vengeful, 10 selfish, 10 deceitful, 10 arbitrary, 7 cruel, 7 proud, 10 reckless, 7 worldly versus spiritual, 7 indulgent, 10 suspicious, and 5 cowardly. All right. Now choose one trait and make it 16. This is your famous trait, what you are known for among your peers. So I want to pick one of the probably, well, chaste, energetic, forgiving, generous. Well, I could also take one of the bad traits to be 16. I don't really want to, though. I'm thinking generous. Ooh, just. Merciful, modest, prudent, trusting, valorous. Aeddan the generous. Aeddan the just. Aeddan the honest. Just versus arbitrary. Let me finish reading this. Finally, oh, there's more. Distribute 6 points amongst any of the other traits. No other trait may be raised above 15, but you are free to put all of your points into a trait if you wish, so long as it remains under 16. Okay, so let's figure out. One is 16, and then we get 6 more points. I think I'm gonna take just. I'm gonna put some points into honest. So just will be 16. Arbitrary will be 4. I mean, I could take some bad ones too, but I don't want to. I have 6 more points. I think we're going to make generous. I mean, honest. I think we're going to make
14. So we're going to put 4 points there. So that lowers my deceitful to 6. And that leaves us 2 points. I think we'll put it into modest. Yeah, I like the idea of that. So that'll be 15 with those two, because that was already a 13. And that makes our pride, our proud is only a 5. I feel like the traits are just as important as I see skills here. We haven't gotten that yet, I don't think. And characteristics, which I am liking this. Now, I've done this before and it's been a while since I don't really remember how it actually goes down or how you actually play, but all right. So, we've got those done. For example, let's look at this example here. For example, if you really wanted to play a proud character, you could put all 6 points in that trait, offsetting the +3 modest bonus, and give your final total of -7, proud 13. You put all 6 points into that trait. Oh, I see what they're saying. Yeah, so you could actually bring up some of these. I like playing good guys, though. I mean, like really good guys. Passions. After finishing with your traits, move on to passions. Passions are intense beliefs that may provide inspiration, boosting a single skill or trait for a short time. I have 4 passions: homage, lord, love of family, hospitality, and honor, and all of those are at 15. Passions are especially useful in combat or when attempting a difficult task. If traits represent your personality, passions represent the values your characters hold most dear. The most important passion, I gotta stretch the leg again, is honor, and this begins with the value of 15. There are many other passions, including adoration, devotion, hate, station, and chivalry. For the purpose of your character, we focus on three others aside from honor: homage, lord, love, family, and hospitality. These each start with a value of 15 each. For definitions of each personality trait and passion, see Chapter 3, Traits and Passions, in Book 2. There's Book 2. We're not going to bother. This is a solo one-shot. Hopefully, they'll tell me how to play. Skills. The final step for customizing your character is assigning points to your skills. As the name implies, skills are what allow characters to accomplish great deeds in the game. Each skill has a default value listed on the character sheet. Let me check some. Yeah, listed. I've been having a little trouble with the computer. It's crashed. It crashed twice yesterday. It's been really good up to this point, but then yesterday it was like died twice. Totally unrelated stuff was. I was doing totally unrelated stuff. So I got Specky up, and I'm kind of keeping an eye on the temperature, but I don't think that's what did it. So if the stream abruptly ends, it'll start again shortly. It just means the computer crashed and I've got to start over. And I'm saving in MKV on OBS, so it won't destroy my video. Hooray. I keep looking at my face. I feel like they've got to develop a screen where the camera is in the dead center of the screen so you can be looking directly at the face when you're looking and still be looking at the camera. I wish they'd figure that out. Okay. Sorry, that was totally interrupted. Each skill has a default value listed on the character sheet in parentheses. These values are increased in a variety of ways, as outlined below. So we have skills of awareness, courtesy, first aid, folklore, hunting, intrigue, orate, and religion, with various numbers between 5 and 7. Battle skills are all 6: brawling, charge, two-handed, hafted, horsemanship, spear, and sword. That's it. There's not a whole lot of skills in this game, which is fine. Because you are a Cymric Knight in training, you add 3 to your charge, horsemanship, and courtesy skills. Alright. So my charge goes up to 9, horsemanship 9, and courtesy goes up to 10. Alright. Every family has certain inboard talent for a particular skill. Roll 1d6 and consult Table 1, selecting family characteristics to find out where your natural skill talent lies. Then increase the indicated skill by +3. Alright, d6. Here we go. I got a 1. That means I am keen-eyed. +3 to awareness, which will bring that up to an 8. Keen-eyed. I'm going to jot that on there. Now distribute 10 points amongst your skills without limitations outlined below. These personal skill additions represent where you've put your time and attention as you've grown up in court. As with passions, not all skills are useful in every scenario. However, some skills of use
Some skills of use only to knights, such as stewardship, are not included on this character sheet. Okay, yeah. Let's see. What are my limits here? Skill limitations. When distributing the points listed below, you must do the following rules. No skill may How many I got? I got 10 points. Okay. No skill. Let's put that on our scrap sheet. No, that looks like a 16. No, it does look like 10. No skill may be raised above 15. No skill with starting value of 0 may be increased. All these skills have at least a point in them. The following skills may not be raised above the value of the appeal characteristic. The appeal. Where is appeal? Oh, appeal. Mine's a 12. Okay. Characteristic at the time. That's like appearance, I think. At the time of character creation, courtesy, flirting, folklore, intrigue, and orate. I don't have several of those. Bonuses from your Cymric skill modifiers and family characteristics may raise skill values above limitations set out above. Okay. So my courtesy is 10 because I got 3 points there. So, crap. I don't know what to take, honestly. I don't really want to do battle skills necessarily. I think 6s are, well, I do have horsemanship. Let's see what charge does for me. Skills. It probably won't come in handy. Charge is not on here. Wait. Oh, wow. Oh. This book smells so good. I don't even see charge in here. That's odd. Compose, courtesy, dancing, falconry, first aid, flirting, folklore, gaming, horsemanship. Ooh, we could get that up. I think we might put that up so I'm really good on the horse. Hunting, intrigue, literacy, orate, play instrument. Well, charge isn't even on here, so I'm not going to bother messing with it at this juncture. I mean, this is just our introduction to the game. We're trying to 10 points. I got 10 points to play with. I kind of want to up my courtesy some more. Since it's already good, let's make it great. We're going to up the courtesy by 3 to make it a 13. And I think we'll up my horsemanship by 3. That makes that a 12. First aid. Oh, wait. 1, 2, 3. That's 6 points. I got 4 points left. Let's put 2 into orate. That'll make that a 9. And let's put 2 into folklore. Oh no, let's put 2 into intrigue and make that a 9. Alright, so there we have it. That's all my skills. So I've got awareness of 8. I might try to put that up actually. Courtesy of 13. First aid is 6, folklore 7, hunting 5, intrigue is 9, orate is 9, religion's 5, brawling is 6, charge is 9, two-handed haft is 6, horsemanship is 12, spear is 6, and sword is 6. So I'm pretty good with this horse. I'm very courteous. Okay, there we have it. There's Squire Aeddan from a family of known for being keen-eyed. And did I get the bonus on that? Yeah, I gave that bonus to awareness. That's why it's an 8. I probably should have upped that a little bit more, but that's okay. We've set up our traits. We got our skills. I guess my hit points are 27. My healing rate's 3. Unconscious is 7. What did they say about that? Hold on just a sec. I wanted to see. I thought they taking damage. Okay. I thought they said something about that. Once hit points fall below the character's unconscious threshold, the character's incapacitated. So once I hit 7, I believe I have 27. So I can take 20 points of damage before I am knocked unconscious. And then when I hit 0, I'm dying. Alright. So, yeah. Okay. That's it. We've set up our squire. Let's see how we do. So we'll start the adventure of the sword in the stone. Sir Ector's manor is built upon the ruins of an ancient hill fort in the country of Penlyn. The hall, Sir Ector's place of residence, is a grand two-story stone building with an entrance on the second floor. On this fine autumnal day, with the harvest done and the air getting chillier, you're enjoying a brief respite. What is the time? We're at about 30 minutes and 20 seconds. Sorry, I should have noted that before. You're enjoying a brief respite from your duties with your friend and fellow page, Alice. The two of you are sitting. The two of you are sitting near the warmth of the central hearth, playing a game of improvised drafts using river pebbles, when the main door of the hall flies open. It is your friend Arthur, Kay's younger brother, and his fine features are lit up with excitement. He beams at you. Kay wants to do Quentin practice, and I asked if you could join us, and he said yes. You leap to your feet. As a page, you're not allowed to practice martial skills with the squires. Kay, the senior squire of the household, must be feeling magnanimous. The game of drafts forgotten. You and Alice run outside with Arthur. Let's go to 2. The knight is, if nothing else, a mounted warrior, and the knight is most fearsome on the battlefield as part of the massed mounted lance charge. Against this unstoppable force, few enemies may stand. Learning how to ride your horse into battle takes years of practice. It requires riding at a full gallop, holding a heavy shield in one hand and a long, wobbly stick in the other, all the while maintaining balance and control of the mount long enough to score a meaningful hit against a target without falling off afterward. Ha ha ha! Squires practice their aim with the lance using a device called a quintain. Quintain? Hold on. Let's look up the how you pronounce quintain, because I don't know. Quintin. I was right. It's pronounced Quintin. Fantastic. Um, These vary in constructions from simple to elaborate. Sir Ector's quintain is decidedly the former, but it serves its purpose well enough. A crossbeam atop a post is used to hang an iron disc about the size of a man's face. The distance from the ground may be adjusted, but usually, like today, it is hung at the approximate point where a precise hit is likely to unhorse a knight. The idea is to execute a charge with a lance and try to score a direct hit on the disc, which is molded in such a way that only by striking the very center will a sonorous gong sound out. Here we go. There you have it, right there. There it is. And this is us, apparently, having a great time. Sorry, I like that. I really love the picture on the front of this book. Um, as you run out onto the top of the stairs, leading outside the hall, you see that Kay has set up the quintain and brought a small stack of rebated lances. They're normally lethal points dulled with a cloth bundle. Your excitement dims when you see he has also brought out a mechanical hobby horse. Guess who's those kids pulling the hobby horse? I wonder which one of these is me. Uh, Hold on a sec. We're gonna take a quick break. Who did this cover art? Authors, editor, because it's beautiful. Cover artist Andrei Fetizov. I really like the cover art on this book. Um, your excitement. Yeah, right. There's a four-wheeled contraption with a saddle on top, which must be pulled by 2 others in order to achieve momentum and speed. Kay seems to register your disappointment as you descend the stairs. Mm-hmm. What? Did you think I was going to get Bishop out for this? Bishop is the name of Sir Ector's charger, a fine war horse, who has seen many a battle and bears the scars to prove it. It is enough that the whelp promised to do my chores for a fortnight in exchange for this favour. I watched The Sword in the Stone as a kid. I really loved it. And I read T.H. White's book and just adored it. Arthur looks abashed. Clearly, he did not want Kay to mention this part of the deal. Being an older squire of 17 winters, Arthur has many responsibilities already. Taking on Kay's tasks will mean long hours and sore limbs. In a situation like this, whether it may not be clear how best to respond, you may turn to your traits for guidance. As long as the traits, now remember, this is an introductory scenario, so it's going to try to teach us the game as we play. So there might be little pauses in the story like this. So I hope everybody will be nice and patient. As long as the trait is less than 16, you're always free to choose how to act. Less than 16. Oh. All my traits are less than 16 except for just. Uh-oh. However, let us see what the dice have to say this time. Okay, so if a trait's less than 16, you're always free to act. I think if you
have it above 16 or above, you have to roll to see if you can actually not do your trait. Like, I'm just. I have to see justice done. Actually, let's look up the just trait. That's the only one that's really high. Traits, page 15. I'm going to try not to stop too much, but look at the trait definitions. Yeah, that's what I want. Here we go. Trait definitions. Just arbitrary. This trait pairs measures a character's subjective view of fairness. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. So anyway, let us see what the dice have to say. This is called a decision roll, and has you rolling against two usually opposed traits. It's usually obvious which trait to roll against once you become familiar with their definitions. In this case, look to your just and arbitrary traits. Just and arbitrary. That's my specified big 16. Um, Someone with a high value in just has developed an objective sense of right and wrong, while an arbitrary person allows their own biases or self interest to influence their feelings. Take a d20. There's my d20. And roll against the value of your just trait first. If you roll equal to or less than the value, you are said to have succeeded in that trait. Equal to or less than the value. Okay. Rolling the value of the trait exactly is called a critical success, while rolling a 20 is called a fumble. Let's see what we roll. We've got 16 here in just. I rolled an 11, so that is a success in the trait. If you roll a critical success, put a check next to just on your character sheet. If you fumble the roll, put a check next to arbitrary instead, as a fumble in one trait is considered an automatic success in the other. If you failed your roll against just, make a second roll against arbitrary. As with just, a critical success here grants a check in arbitrary, and a fumble grants a check in the opposite trait and is considered a successful just roll. If you fail both rolls, you must make your own choice between the two. Okay, that makes sense. So whichever one succeeds is the one you want to go with. If you chose or succeeded at just, go to 3. If you chose or succeeded at arbitrary, go to 4. We succeeded at just immediately, so we'll go to 3. There is an aside here, doing the right thing. Pendragon often confronts players with dilemmas that are played out using personality traits. The traits on the left-hand side of the column on your character sheet are considered the more positive ones for knights from Britain's mainstream culture and religion. Acting in accordance with these traits is considered befitting a good Cymric Christian knight, but it's not always the right thing to do. Behavior that seems advantageous in the moment may come with a hidden cost later on. Conversely, some sacrifices may be made entirely in vain. Traits of 16 or higher, called famous traits, which mine is just, often compel behavior in accordance with that trait unless you roll under the opposing trait. Often compel behavior in accordance with that trait. Right. Other times, you may wish or be asked to roll against one or two traits to determine a course of action, such as making a valorous roll to confront a terrifying monster, or rolling against temperate and indulge to see if you overeat at a feast. Over time, acting in accordance with a particular trait raises the value, causing you to act even more so in the future. So hold on, let me look over this again. If you roll equal to or less than you're said to have succeeded at the trait, rolling the value of the trait exactly is a critical success. If you rolled a critical success, put a check mark, which I didn't. If you fumbled the roll, put a check next to arbitrary as a fumble. If you failed your roll against the just, make a second roll against arbitrary. Okay, so only if you fail the roll against the good do you make the roll against the bad. Okay, so we went with just, so we go to 3. K is 7 years your senior and has at least 2 stone of weight on you, but you feel you must say something. If this comes at the expense of Arthur having to do all your work for you, Kay, then I don't want it. You feel your eyes flash as your heart pounds inside your chest. You would love nothing more than to take a shot at the Quintain, but not at the expense of your friend. Everything is quiet for a moment. You see that Alice has come out on the landing and is watching the whole scene, which makes your cheeks... Oh, that's me and Arthur pulling the thing. Alice is a girl? Wait, hold on. I was playing drafts with fellow page Alice. She's a girl. Oh, I did not make that connection. Alice, duh, it's a girl's name. That name's not up here. But that must be her up top. She's a fellow page. Okay, I assumed it was a boy. Um,
You see that Alice, so that's what we're seeing here in this picture on the front. I love this picture. You see that Alice has come out on the landing and is watching the whole scene, which makes your cheeks flush bright red. Kay's expression is one of utter bemusement. Fine, he says at last with a shrug. For one fleeting moment, you think you might have won this standoff. I guess this doesn't matter to you as much as the whelp said it did. Still, it would be a shame to waste my setting up the quintain. I'll take a few passes with the lance, and you and the whelp can pull me. Wait, how did I win? I mean, I'm not quite sure I'm understanding what's happening here. Go to 6. Alright. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. I don't feel like I won. Alright. You cannot help but feel dejected. Yeah, I didn't. I lost. Kay's a jerk. Arthur catches your eye as you both move to the front of the hobby horse and gives you an encouraging smile. That's got to be Arthur. It has to be Arthur right there. Right there. That's got to be him. I think that's got to be. Look how happy he looks. They all look so happy. K on the back. Sorry. You can see that he is grateful you spoke up, which helps to lift your spirits. Don't worry, he says. Before you know it, you'll be doing this practice so much you'll wish that quintain had never been built. Oh, Arthur's so awesome. By making a just decision against your own best interest, you earn a check to honor. Ooh, where is honor on this thing? Honor. There it is. I got a check for my honor. Ka-chink. I guess because it takes 2 to pull it, and I stood up for Arthur, even though we didn't win. By making a just decision against your own best interest, you earn a check to honor. So I've checked honor off. Now wait a minute. I can't remember. Do I have to check these every time I do something, or is it just once? Well, we'll check it every time, and if it just needs to be checked once, then I'll ignore the others. It's no big deal. Kay hops onto the back of the hobby horse, causing its legs to bow alarmingly. Yeah, that's pretty solid to me. He wields the lance, 12 feet long and made from a single piece of ash wood, as if it were a stick. All right, horsey, let's go. He pretends to put spur to horse, and Arthur laughs. From the landing, Alice shouts out words of encouragement. Your leather shoes dig into the uneven turf as you pull hard. Even with Arthur's help, this is going to be tough work. Those are some small wheels they got on this thing. All right. Make an unopposed strength roll. See how you fare. To do this, roll a d20 and compare the result to your strength characteristic. My strength is a 12. As you did with your trait roll. Remember that rolling the exact volume of your strength is a critical success, while a 20 is a fumble. Let's see. Here we go. I rolled a 10, which is a success. Just a regular success. Go to 14. All right, 14. We're pulling. I succeeded. Here we go. You put everything you have into pulling the horse, and despite the bumpy turf underneath and Kay's bulk, you and Arthur managed to... Oh my god, I'm pulling the horse with Arthur. This is so awesome. You and Arthur managed to get it up to a decent speed. You can see the cloth-covered tip of the lance sticking out above your head and entertain the ludicrous thought that this is what all war horses must see in battle. This is so cute. When the lance strikes home, the metal disc ringing out to indicate a perfect... Then the lance strikes home, the metal disc ringing out to indicate a perfect strike. The horse slows to a stop, and Kay hops off. That's how it's done, children, he says, starting to walk off, leaving the tidying up to you and Arthur. Go to 17. Yeah, Kay's kind of a pretentious jerk. I believe he's Sir Ector's son, so... Arthur was brought by somebody in the night, if I remember. He's adopted, so he's not seen as important. Without warning, the air is split with the blast of a horn. Your petty concerns and squabbles pop like a soap bubble as you all turn to see the Lord of the Manor, Sir Ector, riding up from the village of Cairgay. His household knight, Sir Jonas, riding behind him. Most knights in Britain serve the household of a lord, thus their name. They are also called bachelor knights, from bas chevalier, low knight. They are nonetheless members of the nobility, and to reach even their rank puts one in an exclusive group of warriors sworn to defend those who cannot defend themselves and pledge their swords to the service of a nobleman or lady. Sir Ector, an aging knight, seems to be in good humor. I'll always picture Sir Ector as they had him in The Sword and Stone in Disney with the big, thick mustache. He reins his horse to a halt near where you were practicing and hops down. I have word that our King Marwan and his court are to pay us a visit in 2 days' time to stay with us through the feast of St. Andrew. Tomorrow we go a hunting for boar. The king must have a grand feast of welcome when he arrives. Quentin practice is over. The boar hunt is always an event that requires the support of the full household, and you, Alice, Kay, and Arthur rush to follow Ector into the hall and find out what is expected of you. Ooh, pardon me. Go to 18. Ooh. All right. Today marks a week before the Feast of St. Andrew, and morning dawns chill and gray. That's interesting. Oh, I meant to turn this on as a backup. Oh well. There. Well, just in case. Today marks a week before the Feast of St. Andrew, and the morning chill. The morning dawns chill and gray. Oh, okay. So the night passes. Basically, this is the next day. You rise from your customary bed, a soft pile of straw in the corner of the hall that you share with the other pages, and help the squires get the hearth fire stoked up, along with other menial tasks. Sir Ector is also up and moving about, preparing for the hunt in consultation with Sir Jonas. Hunting is Ector's favorite sport, and he employs huntsman, a gnarled old specimen called Glyn, to help him in his efforts. Glyn is up in the hall at dawn, along with Day, the dog boy, to discuss the day's prospects. Considering the season, all agree that the boar will be the most likely quarry, but they will not know for certain until they see the tokens. Alright, so Glenn is the huntsman. Day is the dog boy. We met Alice. We met Arthur. We met Kay, Ector, and Jonas. The hunt, you have gathered, has a lexicon all its own with words like unharboring, fumes, a bay, and so forth. Although you've seen many hunts set out from Ector's halls, this is to be the first time you are invited along on one, and your stomach is far too unsettled to take the bread and small ale on offer for the morning's fast breaking. Arrangements are made, and the hunting party assembles outside the hall. The knights and squires are dressed in their gambesons, thickly quilted cloth armor that provides some small protection against the beasts of the wild. Each carries I've got one of those too. Each carries a special spear called a boar spear, which features a long, sharp iron head and a sturdy metal crosspiece, positioned about 18 inches down the shaft, and intended to prevent the wild boar from running up the spear and goring the hunter. Sir Ector has spun fireside tales of companions lost to the savagery of the boar and its razor-sharp tusks, and your blood runs cold as you think of what it would take to bring down such a wild beast. You walk alongside Day, who has his hands full managing the estate's pack of baying, running hounds. To your other side lopes Aaron, Aaron, the great shaggy Q, or wolfhound, who's a great favorite of everyone in Ector's household. Oh no, he's probably gonna die. They always kill dogs. He's as big as you, but as gentle as a lamb. His presence reassures you, for he is as brave and true as any noble knight. The air is fresh, and from the rains overnight, and as you walk across the vale, the clouds begin breaking up, allowing some golden sunlight through. To the east, you see golden rays reflecting off the surface of Llyn Tegid, the mighty lake that forms the headwaters of the River Dee. It is said that beneath its waves lies a sunken city, and some nights you can see the lights of the buildings down in the depths. That's what Kay always claimed, at least. You and Arthur have snuck out a few times, but you haven't seen anything so far. Aside from the scattering towns and villages and their farms and pasture lands on Sir Ector's estates, most of the vale is light woodland, and you're making for one such patch of forest now. I lost that sentence. And you're making for one such patch of forest now. Glyn and his assistants from Cairgay got a head start earlier, and you see them approaching bearing the excrement of a boar inside the rim of their hunting horns. Glyn. Yeah, that's okay. Glyn. Yeah, Glyn is our huntsman. Go to 19. We're just going right down the line.
Sir Ector dismounts and confers with Glyn the hunter about the best approaches, the location of the boar's lair, and so forth. The air is electric with anticipation. Kay approaches you. Why did this turn off? Come on. Oh, because I had it on. I was looking up that thing. There we go. There we go. Sorry. Kay approaches you. You see he is holding a sausage link. He tears it apart with his teeth and offers you half. You should eat something. Hunts can last all day. Kay does have his moments of compassion. As you eat, he explains the different calls of the huntsman's horn, how it is used to gather hounds, to signal the other hunters, and to announce the death of the quarry, in addition to sundry other uses. Every knight and squire carries a horn, for hunts often range over vast distances, and it's easy to get separated. Arthur has drifted over during the conversation as well, listening to Kay while leaning against a spear. You should stick nearby to me and Sir Ector, says Kay. If you get separated, just listen for our call. Once we've taken the bull, you will help bring it back to the hall. I'm giving these guys kind of weird British accents. It should be Welsh, probably, but. Just then, Glyn signals the finding, the opening stage of the hunt where the beast is unharbored, and the chase begins. The hounds set up a tremendous racket and nearly pull Day off his feet as they begin moving towards the woods. The knights mount up, and Kay and Arthur dash towards their horses as well, before Arthur stops, turns, and hands his spear to you. In case you run into any trouble, he says. Oh my god, Arthur's the best. His face grim. You feel a wave of gratitude wash over you. It is not as sophisticated as the knight's boar spears, but it is better than nothing. Gripping the spear, you break into a trot on foot, keeping up as the knights canter towards the woods. Soon you're among the trees, the dead leaves of autumn crunching softly beneath your shoes. I guess I don't have a horse. The bracken and branches are not so bad here, and you keep an eye on the knights as they press ahead, dogs and huntsmen in the lead. It is not long before you hear a blast from Glyn's horn. The quarry is found, and the chase is on. You see signs of movement deeper in the woods, and go that way, your breath ragged in your throat and coming out in great white puffs. More horn blasts, now from multiple hunters. Dogs barking and howling, echoing among the trees. Shouts fading into the distance. You look around. You are all alone. Okay, we've got another side about success and failures. Refer back to this page if you forget what some of the various die roll outcomes mean. Okay, so this is page 14. Page 14. Die outcomes. Yeah, alright. In Pendragon, there are two types of rolls, unopposed and opposed. Unopposed rolls are a single die, d20 roll against one of your stats. You roll either succeed or fail. If you roll the value of the statistic exactly, it's a critical success. If you roll 20, it's a fumble. Unless your statistic is also a fumble. Opposed rolls involves 2d20 rolls against two statistics. Each roll is read the same as an unopposed roll, then the results are compared. Opposed rolls involve two. Okay. If you succeed and your opponent fails, or if you both succeed but your die roll value is higher, you win. If your opponent succeeds and you fail, you lose. If you succeed but your opponent's die roll value is higher than yours, it's a partial success. If you both fail, it's a mutual failure. If you both roll the same value on the dice or both score a critical success, it is a tie. Okay, so there's a lot of different little things. So, make an opposed roll of your hunting skill versus the boar's avoidance skill of 10. My hunting skill is only a 5. I am not a very good hunter. So opposed roll. You're trying to both succeed at your own hunting roll and roll better than the boar's outcome if he succeeds at his avoidance roll. This is called winning the roll. If you and the boar both succeed, but he rolls better than you, then this is a partial success. If you fail your roll and the boar succeeds, this is a loss. If you both fail your rolls, this is a mutual failure, and rolling a 20 means you've fumbled. For this opposed roll, there's no penalty if you fail or lose your skill roll, apart from the simple consequences of failing. But this is not always the case. Alright, so, my roll. I have to roll 5 or less. 7 is a fail, so I did not make it. The boar's is a 10, it said. He rolled an 11, so he succeeded. So, I think I failed the roll. If you succeed, if your opponent succeeds and you fail, this is a loss. If you fail or lose the roll. So we got to go to 39. Wow, that jumped me ahead. I hope this just doesn't... Boom! The adventure ends. You're gored and killed by the boar. I hope not. Just a kid. I'll climb a tree. 39, not 36. 39. 39. You wander the woods for what feels like hours. The day is growing long. From time to time, you hear the distant call of a hunting horn and turn in what you think is the right direction, but then another call sounds from the completely different direction. Great. I'm lost. That is awesome. Doggone it. Should have put some points into hunting, I guess. Um, you're beginning to despair of ever finding your way out of the woods when suddenly you spot a remarkable scene up ahead. Okay. A great mossy rock juts from a cliffside. Under the home overhang, there is a lean-to hut, its boards green with moss. Is this Madam Mim? A ragged hemp cloth curtain hangs in the doorframe. There is no sign of anyone about. Okay, I can investigate the hunt, go back the way I came, roll hunting again. And then if I succeed in a hunting roll, I follow them to the clearing where Sir Ector and Kay have downed the boar. If I fail, go to 46 and wander deeper in the woods. I think we're going to investigate the hut. Hold on. Let me check out my traits. Let's see. Prudent and reckless are equal, so it's kind of a toss-up. I mean, I should be finding the hunt, but I really want to check this place out. Let's make rolls against prudent and reckless. Let's see how they said to do this up here. Um, if I get prudent, I'm going to head back. I need to be part of the fight. If I get reckless, then I'm going to check out this hut. How about that? How's that for you? Both are 10. Here's my prudent roll. I rolled an 11. That is a fail. So now I have to roll against reckless. If I fail both rolls, I have to make my own choice. Um, 15 is also a fail. So nothing happens. I got to make my own choice. Yeah, but I'm sucky at hunting. Maybe these people can tell me where to go. I'm going to go look. I'm going to go investigate the hut. You push aside the ragged curtain and enter the hut. There's a pile of straw in the corner that seems to serve as a bed, and the only other pieces of furniture are the three-legged stool and a small cabinet, both roughly carved. The rock of the cliff overhang forms the ceiling and three walls. You see a cave mouth in the far wall, and you can just make out the flickering of a feeble flame somewhere within its darkened depths. The sound of chanting is also discernible. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Roll religion. Okay. What is my religion? Not great. 5. Oh no, I put the wrong traits up. Come on. 8. That's a fail. So I failed religion. If you fail the religion roll, you may decide whether to press on. If you do, go to 42. Otherwise, you may leave the hut and go back the way you came. Roll hunting again. If you succeed here, blah, 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 blah. Let's press on. That's 42. The cave passage is narrow and twisting and nearly pitch dark. Only the light of the hermit's candles in the chamber ahead provides any sort of illumination. You emerge into a makeshift chapel. The chamber is shaped like a beehive, and water drips from cracks in the ceiling, soaking into the pebbly ground. I thought that was petty ground, which makes no sense. Across from you is a crude altar festooned with the images of Christ on the cross, the apostles, and the Virgin Mary. Spiritual is a 13. Many small beeswax candles burn on the nooks and railings of the altar. So I'm religious, I just don't know much about it. Okay. In front, kneeling, is a raggedy man, his head bowed. He is whispering and rocking back and forth as he does so, lost in holy ecstasy. Despite the simple surroundings, the room seems filled with an otherworldly sensation. The air seems thicker here, almost sweet. Either choose between or roll against your spiritual and worldly traits. If you roll, you may choose which to roll first. Do not roll against the second trait if you succeeded first. A critical success means you place a check. I will roll against my spiritual. These take us to different places. Okay, I do feel spiritual. Oh, there's a picture. Here's a picture of the hut. There it is. Neat. Okay, let's roll against spiritual.
5. That is a success. I don't put a check there, but I succeeded in the spiritual, so we're going to go on to 43. Let's see what's going on here. You kneel and clasp your hands in prayer, listening as the hermit finishes the liturgy. You possess only the most basic knowledge of your faith. Like most members of the gentry, you only attend church on the major holy days and are untutored in your letters. But you feel swept up in the moment and meditate on the effigy of Christ looking down at you from the altar until the hermit concludes. With the final amen, he stands and turns to face you, smiling. Go to 45.
What brings you to my humble chapel, my child? He asks.
He's an older man with rugged looking with a shaggy mop of hair and bushy beard. Something about his bearing, however, reminds you of Sir Ector. You tell him of your misadventure in the woods and of your separation from your party. The hermit listens with sympathy. Then, taking up a large candle and blowing out the rest, leads you back to his cell.
I can set you on the right path, he says with a twinkle in his eye, but not before I've fed you and seen to your care.
He bids you sit on the solitary stool, then departs and is gone for a quarter hour, returning with a small basket overflowing with freshly picked greens.
I have a small garden patch near the stream, he explains.
The bounty includes parsley, lettuce, and watercress, all of which he tosses together in a wooden bowl. He also has a gourd filled with fresh stream water, all of which he offers you.
You should have some bread as well, he says.
And he opens a cabinet door to fetch a half-eaten loaf from within. Your eyes light upon something else, however. Inside the cabinet, a slightly rusted mail hauberk, and his sword in a scabbard. The hermit notes your gaze.
Indeed, I was once a knight, much like your lord Sir Ector. I held many estates, and had a fine wife who blessed me with 12 sons.
He pauses. You think he may be on the verge of tears, but he composes himself and continues.
I lost all of my sons in just a few short years. The 4 horsemen visited my hearth again and again. When my youngest, my last, when I lost him, I lost myself. I took leave of my senses, and lived as a wild man in the woods for months, years. At last, I found my wits again, thanks to the grace of the Lord. I saw a vision deep in the forest, a silver stag. Between its great antlers, a glowing apparition, a grail covered in shimmering samite. I knew myself once again, and I knew my life's remaining years were to be devoted to holy contemplation out here in the wilds.
The hermit takes a deep breath, then smiles at you again.
All done? Good. Let me show you the way back.
Thanks to the hermit's directions, you head off in the right direction, and soon hear the sound of the mort being blown on the horn. The boar is dead. Go to 53. All right. So, our old hermit out in the woods used to be a knight. Ooh. Imagine that. Yeah, I'm streaming. Nobody's here. 53. The boar lies dead, its blood soaking into the leaf-strewn ground. The barking and whimpering of the hounds forms a chorus in the background, but they know to hold back. Their reward is soon to come. Sir Ector takes a stout, sharp blade and begins the unlacing of the beast, first disemboweling it before cutting it into 4 quarters plus the head. Some of the boar's insides are now thrown to the dogs, while others are set aside for the forthcoming feast. Kay blows a complex pattern on his horn to signal the conclusion of the hunt. Spirits are high, and there is much laughter and singing as the parts are gathered for transport back to the hall. You and Arthur hoist a pole between you, from which hangs the boar's hindquarters. You arrive back at Sir Ector's hall as the sun begins its descent to the horizon, and a chill westerly wind picks up, blowing great gray clouds across the sky. Within, the hearth fire blazes, and you, Kay, and Arthur warm your hands, beaming at each other. Wash up, barks Sir Ector. No time for dilly-dallying. The king arrives tomorrow, and there is much to be done. Go to 54. All right, so, boom, it's another day. Hold on. Thought that was about empty. I got another sip left. The morning dawns under patchy rain clouds, and all you want to do is stay snuggled up in under your bearskin blanket and rest your aching muscles. Uh-oh. Roll energetic versus lazy. Oh, no. Those are 10 each. All right. All right, so here's energetic.
I got an 8. That's a success. If you succeed at energetic, check the trait and get up in spite of your weariness. If you succeed in lazy, check that trait instead. I succeeded at energetic, so I don't think, and I failed at lazy, so I get to put a check by energetic, they said. Heck yeah. Check. Um, so let me check again real quick how this works. Personality traits. No, 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 no. Where was that? Ah, here it is. It's on page 9. Take a d20 of the just trait first. If you succeed, you are said to have succeeded in the trait. Rolling the trait. If you rolled a critical success, put a check. Well, they said put a check here anyway. If you see the energetic, check the trait and get up in spite. So I do get a check there. If you roll, if you failed your roll against the just trait, then you make against arbitrary. I'll have to reread that in the real rules. But anyway, I get up in spite of my weariness. Hooray! Regardless of the outcome, you are soon hard at work, attending to your morning chores. Returning to the hall around noon, around sext, noontime, you find the household hard at work, laying out the trestle tables and setting up the hall for the grand feast. There is a high table where the king and Sir Ector will sit with their favored guests, and 2 other tables set perpendicular to that, forming a rough U shape. Go to 55. So 54, 55. I put this mark in the wrong place. Anyway, as the boar meat roasts over the spit, filling the hall with mouth-watering aroma, you help Kay and Arthur in setting up the trestles and benches and in laying out fresh hay on the floor. Then Kay, entrusted with his father's keys, retrieves the silver and fine linen from the lockbox in Ector's solar, and the 3 of you set out the service. Sir Jonas, meanwhile, is busy setting up the dresser, a side table where the food is prepared for presentation at the table. With ritualistic care, he sets out the pewter goblets, ewers, and henneps. He also sets up the aumbry, a special cupboard where Sir Ector's finest platters are displayed for all to admire. These gold plates, craftily inlaid with pearls and stones, are far too valuable to be used for mere dining. You watch as Ector's tapestries, taken outside for freshening up one final time before the onset of winter, are hung again. They depict scenes of hunting, of battle, of courtship, and the finer things of life. You have studied these tapestries many times over the years, for they hold the promise of the life ahead of you, a life of honor, glory, and valor. Your reverie is broken by Arthur, who runs into the hall. The king approaches! King is approaching. Let me grab a second beer. This time we're going for light beer from Miller. I keep looking at my face, so it looks like I'm looking up in the air. In you go. All right. 56. Go to 56. A lot of exposition in this one. King Mawan of Pelin is a young man, dark of hair, with steely blue eyes and a scruffy beard, just thick enough to cover his chin. He is typical of the kings of these parts, more a tribal chieftain and warlord than anything. He has come with a small train of knights, warriors, ladies, maids, attendants, and grooms, all of whom quickly fill the hall. As Sir Ector bows the king into his hall to the accompaniment of a trumpet of fanfare, offering him rose water to wash his hands and face, your gaze falls upon the most remarkable member of the king's entourage. A dirty runt of a boy, dressed in goatskins. A herder by the looks of him. He catches your gaze, winks at you, and then disappears amongst the throng. Who the heck is the king? Mawan? Your attention is drawn by Sir Jonas, who serves as Ector's steward, an officer who oversees the estate's food, fields, and flocks. He's doling out assignments for the pages and squires. Roll courtesy. Courtesy is a 13. If your lazy trait succeeded earlier, your skill is at a -5 due to Kay calling you a layabout. Haha! I did not fail. Courtesy, I need to roll 13 or less. Come on. 17, I failed. Some bitch. I gotta go to 58. Well, hell. Sir Jonas looks at you up and down. Kitchen duty, I think, he says dismissively. Kitchen duty!
ever has it been your fate, and you know that it means a lot of hot, sweaty, thankless work, all while getting barked at by Riss, Sir Ector's disagreeable cook. You leave Kay and Arthur to serve at table and make for the kitchen, which is on the ground floor, separated by the stone exterior wall to prevent the spread of fire in case of an accident. You find Ritz and his kitchen boys hard at work, laboring over a variety of bubbling pots. You and Alice are to deliver the finished dishes to the hall and lay them on the dresser. Right on cue, Riss starts shouting orders at you. "Mark, let you keep your grubby little fingers out of it, you!" he barks, as you heft a charger, or large platter, onto your shoulder. Deftly, you navigate the stairs up from the kitchen, Alice ahead of you. But a devilish thought gives you pause. You know that you will not be getting any of this food until the end of the feast, when it is all cold and congealed. Perhaps you should sneak a little bit of this tasty boar's meat and gravy. No! No, no! That's wrong! Roll your temperate versus indulgent. Oh no. Oh, my temperate's 13. If you succeed at first roll, you do not roll a second. Temperate. Come on. Come on, die. 16, I failed! Cripes! Stupid D20. If you succeed at temperate, if you succeed, I've got to check indulgent. It's just only a 7. Come on. Yes, I failed! Alright. If you succeed indulgent, if you fail both, you may decide yourself, but do not receive a check. Alright, I don't get a check. I don't get a check anyway, unless it's a critical success, do I? Check the trait is on these. So I don't get a check. I'm going to go with, I'm going to resist temptation and go at 59. Yeah, it would be nice, but cold pork is really good, too. Sometimes cold pork's even better. All right, 59. You shake the devil away and keep moving. This is a royal feast. No time to be messing about. In fact, you redouble your efforts and make sure you get your dishes to the dresser while they are still piping hot. Heck yeah. That is one thing that's fun about this game, is you're a knight and you're a good guy. You're doing the right thing. Well, not always, but you can. You watch as Sir Jonas serves at the high table, presenting the finest cuts of meat and the upper crust of the fresh-baked parsley bread to the king and his lord. Once he finishes, he approaches you. You acquitted yourself well. I suppose I must have misjudged you. Aw, thank you. We're going back to 57. Your spirits soar as Sir Jonas tells you he thinks you have grown courteous enough to serve at the table. Yay! All right, this is good. You stand by as food is brought out by other pages from the kitchen and laid out on the dresser. The roasted boar's head, its mouth stuffed with a small russet apple native to Penland, is the centerpiece of the high table. Your job is to prepare and serve Hippocras, a hot spiced wine popular during the colder months. You've done this before for Sir Ector at Yuletide, and go about your new duty with practiced ease. Having filled a pitcher, you begin moving amongst the knights and ladies, who keep you very busy filling their cups. The aroma of the food already out on the table is intoxicating, and your stomach grumbles resentfully. You know that you'll have to wait until after the feast for your portion. But this is cold comfort, as your eyes wander over roasted boar in ginger sauce, marrow fritters, meat jellies formed into the shape of Sir Ector's coat of arms, lampreys in sauce, custard tarts, almond omelets, herb fritters, sliced cheeses, and haslet, the roasted entrails and genitalia of the boar. Delicious. You need some sort of distraction from all the food. Do you wish to try to impress the nobles of King Mawan's court? Go to 64. Or do you prefer to eavesdrop on the conversation at the high table? Oh, those both sound so good. I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I mean, I feel like, let's take a look. A just person probably wouldn't eavesdrop. You know? I don't think. Impress the nobles. That seems prideful. There's nothing. There's no pride here. I do want to hear the conversation. I don't like either of these, to be quite honest. So, You know what? I guess we'll try to impress the nobles. My courtesy's 13. Eavesdropping is not really a good thing. So I think we'll go for that. You put all your effort into your task, trying your best to anticipate the needs of every knight and lady, all the while smiling, bowing, and chatting as appropriate. Make an unopposed roll against your app characteristic, appeal, which is 12. Appeal measures not just your physical looks, but also the impression you leave on others through your natural charm and wit, or lack thereof. Alright, it is a 12, a d20. I rolled a 6, that is a success. I succeeded, so I get to go to 66. 65 is a crit success. You there! My cup grows empty! You hustle over with a pitcher to refill this knight's cup. He is one of King Mawan's men and is a stranger to you. As you pour, you sense he is looking at you. King Mawan. Yeah, I did have that right.
Are you a page or a squire of this household?
He asks. A page, sir.
But soon to be squire, I expect.
You nod.
Very good. You have good bearing about you. Sir Ector does his house proud. They say Kay will make a fine knight. He'll be fighting in the tournament, I expect.
You give the knight a blank look.
The tournament! Surely you know of it? Why, every knight in Britain is going to attend, so they say. And who wouldn't, I ask you? The prize for winning is only acclamation as the new High King of Britain.
You return to the dresser to refill your pitcher, mulling this over. To think Kay, the High King of Britain. What a world. You laugh to yourself as you return to serving at table. Go to 74. Kay would be a terrible king. Oh, here we go. Here's the feast. There we are. There we are. All right. Wow, 74. We have jumped ahead quite a bit here. Where are we time? 4:15. It has been a month since you left home in the company of Sir Ector, Sir Kay, and Arthur, and for the entire time you have endured chill wind and rain and blowing snow, leaving you wet, cold, and miserable. So that's it for the boar feast. I thought there might be more. Right, 74. Let's double check this. Yeah, go to 74. Excuse me. You have often thought of home, dreaming of the warmth of the hearth and good company. Alice made you promise to tell her of the sights of Londinium, so you have that much to look forward to when you return at least. Your journey began on the rough trail that follows the course of the River Dee out of Penland to the City of Legions. You did not linger long in that thriving seaport, with its merchants and travelers from all over the world, or so it seemed to you, before turning southeast along the old Roman road to the kingdom of Camelard. At Carahay's castle, you turned south and entered the great kingdom of Logres, passing over the Chiltern hills through the Roman cities of Corinium and Silchester. Ha ha, Silchester! I've written about that place. The latter part of the journey has been unsettling, like riding through enemy territory, thanks to the constant threats of Saxon raiders in this region. Since the defeat of King Nataliod of Escaval, they divided the word up, so Escavalon, in the Battle of Netley Marsh 2 years ago, the Saxon kings at the southeast coasts have grown increasingly bold. Sir Ector has had plenty to say about the current political situation during your journey. What you have managed to absorb is that the fractious warlords of Britain are doomed to fall one by one to the ambitious Saxons, and that the land is in desperate need of a leader who can unify everyone. Nataliad was the last and best hope for someone to accomplish that by force of arms. Now, by mutual agreement, a tournament is to be held at the old capital city of Londinium on the border of the Saxon kingdoms. The winner, it has been agreed, will be named High King, with great expectations to bring the Saxons to heel. Last night you slept in the stables of Castle Staines, where you were surprised to find that the steward in service to Sir Ulfius, the famous Duke of the Vale, was himself a Saxon. Ector explained to you that the Saxons of the county of Barak have long been allies of the Cymri, your people. It's the kings and warlords, Saxons and Cymri alike, who visit so much woe upon our lands, he said with a sigh. Now this is blue, which has been rules up to this point, so I think this is an error. He said with a sigh, staring into the hearth fire of the great hall at Staines. You and Arthur listened attentively. The Saxons have their own style of High King, which they call a Bretwalda. Their kings fight amongst themselves as much as they fight us, and our own counts and dukes, inheritors of our proud Cimric and Roman traditions, lay siege to each other's castle or usurp thrones from those too weak to hold their claim. Everyone scrambles for the prize, and for what? Power and wealth. This is what they care for. Go to 75. This mark should have been in front of 74. It is another day. Put another mark after 74. Yeah. This morning you were already on the road when the sun came up, and the day dawned cold but clear over frost-rimed fallow fields and woodland. It's around midday when you first catch sight of Londinium, situated on the mighty river Thames. The greatest city in all of Britain, with its stout Roman walls, present an impressive edifice, and within you see countless rooftops, towers, and church spires, as well as the truly magnificent Basilica of St. Paul. Hey, Appalachian Drew is here. Welcome. He says, "Yo, Andy." Hey, Drew. Oh, it only took me 6 minutes to see that. I'm sorry. We are playing Pendragon. The starter scenario, the sword in the stone. I think this is me. I think this is Arthur. Arthur. And there is Sir Kay. We're like Squire with Arthur. I named myself Aeddan. Aeddan. Um, How could so many people live so close together? Asks Arthur in wonder, echoing your thoughts. Several Roman roads feed into Londinium. The one you're on, Watling Street, forms the northern boundary of the grounds marked out for the big New Year's tournament. You see a veritable town made of tents, riotous in color, hosting many of the visiting knights and lords due to fight on the morrow. The excitement on the air is palatable. Watling Street passes through the city walls at Newgate, which, despite its name, is centuries old. Riding beneath the gate, you note a niche at the apex of the arch. Blah. A carven relief. Sorry, depicting the Trojan hero Corinius overthrowing the giant Gog-Magog. Sir Ector told you this story during your journey, and you reflect that ever since the arrival of Brutus and his Trojans, Britain has seen many waves of invaders from across the sea. You're shaken from your reveries by the sight of the street beyond the gate. Buildings as high as 3 stories crowd on either side and in the street itself. And in the street itself throng men, women, children, horses, asses, dogs, pigs, all in what seem a great swirling tumult of jostling, shouting, squealing, braying racket. "Okay, go see about lodgings, there's a good lad," says Ector, seeming a bit overwhelmed himself. "We will wait for you in the courtyard at St. Paul's, just ahead." There's little need for Ector to point out the location of the famous cathedral, for it's easily the greatest structure in the city, dwarfing even the citadel of the White Tower and Lud's Castle, the 2 great Roman stone forts on the banks of the Thames. Sir Kay and Arthur carefully guide their mounts through the throngs as you and Ector make for the cathedral. What the hell is this? There's like a little story here called Kay Gets His Spurs. Um, Sir Kay and Arthur carefully guide their mounts through the throngs as you and Ector make your way for the cathedral. Oh, I think I already read that. As soon as you enter the courtyard, the noise and chaos of the city seems to fade. You dismount, grateful for an opportunity to stretch your sore muscles, then begin tending to the horses. You've barely started on your task when Sir Ector calls you over to some sort of monument erected right outside the cathedral's massive front doors. As you approach, you see a strange marvel. A great stone block surmounted by an anvil. Driven into the anvil is a sword, still bright and sparkling in the sunshine. Sir Ector brushes aside a bit of snow on the shaded side of the block and points to some letters carved into the rock. Like most members of the knightly class, you lack clerical education, and you do not know your letters. Nor does Sir Ector, for that matter, but he has heard others tell of the inscription's words. "It says something like, 'Only the true king can pull me forth,' or words to that effect. Many knights, including the best in the land, have tried, but all say that it will not budge in the slightest." If you encourage Sir Ector to try pulling the sword, go to 76. If you would like to try pulling the sword yourself, go to 77. I'm going to encourage Sir Ector. I am not. Yeah, my modest is 15. I am not the next king of England. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'd like to be, but I'm not. So we're going to, I'm going to encourage Sir Ector at 76. Sir Ector demurs at your suggestion. "No, not I," he says. "Such a lowly knight as myself, High King of Britain? I think not." He chuckles. "Ah, here comes Kay." You've learned an important lesson today. Check modest and go to 78. Modest. Checked. 78. Yeah, see, I am modest. Proud. If I'd had some proud points, that would make me want to pull the sword in the stone. 78. Sir Kay enters the courtyard. I found an inn with room available. Last one in Londinium, or so the old crone who runs the place claimed. Father, I think every knight in Britain has come for this tournament. Kay's eyes are bright with excitement as the shock of the city has begun wearing off. And as the shock of the city has begun wearing off, you can understand why. Save for Rome and Jerusalem, Londinium must be the greatest city in the world. The excitement is infectious. You help lead your mounts through the streets to the inn's stables, then get them unpacked and settled in, and report back to Sir Ector outside the inn himself. I expect you'll be wanting to see the city then, he says. Take the afternoon to explore, but mark that you are back by supper time. You cannot believe your fortune as he hands you 2 silver pennies. Holy mackerel, that's all the money in the world. Just in case you find a souvenir, he says with a wink. Aw, good old Ector. You have a few hours to yourself in one of the world's greatest capitals. What would you like to do? To examine the tournament grounds outside the city walls, go to 91. If you prefer to wander the streets for a bit first, go to 79. Let's wander the streets a bit first. Yeah. The city beckons. Where to? All right, we can visit the Citadel of the White Tower. We can check Dowgate Market. We can stroll through the city's Jewish quarter. Visit the field of Pendragon, where the head of a god lies buried outside the walls. If you've already visited 2 of these sites, go to 90. So 79, let's mark. I want to see Pendragon first. The head of a god? There's another illustration of London. Here we go. London. Londinium. There you have it. All right, so 87. During your journey, Sir Ector spoke briefly of a field outside the city called Pendragon. The Druids and pagans say the head of the old god Bran lies buried there, he said, looking uncomfortable with what he clearly felt was borderline blasphemous talk. He spoke no more of it during the trip, but you resolved to take a look for yourself if possible. You passed by the massive Holy Trinity Priory and through Aldgate. A passing crofter points you in the right direction, and soon you find yourself standing in a small meadow. The battlements of the White Tower look down on you from the south. Flocks of ravens circle above the ancient citadel. Damn, I should have gone there. There's nothing terribly remarkable about this spot. Had you not heard of it, you never would have suspected there was something special about the field. You are not the only one here, though. Through the chill air, you hear the strumming of a harp, clear and lovely. Looking around, you see a man of early middle years sitting under the boughs of a small oak tree growing at the edge of the field. He wears a fine woolen cloak woven in a checked pattern and seems lost in the melody he is plucking out on his lap harp. If you wish to approach the man, go to 88. If you wish to go back to the city, go to 89. We will approach the man. You approach the man, who looks up as you draw near, though he does not cease his playing. He seems friendly and invites you to have a seat beside him. The melody changes, and the man begins to sing a haunting dirge. His song tells of Bran, lord of the pagan underworld, whose life was full of marvels, but who saved his greatest marvel for his death. In his last fight, Bran was mortally wounded, but rather than despair, he gave his friends strange instructions to cut off his head and bury it just outside Londinium. He prophesied that no invaders could harm Britain as long as his head remained buried there. Thus his friends decapitated him and set his head at a table like an honored guest. For 7 years the wondrous head entertained them with song, stories, and riddles, and they did not perceive the passing of time. Thus they failed to comply with Bran's request. When his 6 companions regained their senses, as ordered, they buried Bran's head outside Londinium, where it lies this day. If you wish to give the bard one of your silver pennies in thanks for his performance, check your generous feat. I do. So that gives us pennies. Let me write down pennies. I had 2 and now I have 1. Yeah, generous. Heck yeah, check. With his song concluded, the man stands, gives you a friendly nod, and walks off across Pendragon, disappearing through a bank of hawthorn trees on the far side. Check folklore and go to 89. Okay? 89. The city beckons! Do you wish to continue exploring it? Remember that you have to be back in time for supper. If so, go back to 79. If you've been here before, check reckless. Others go to line 91 to take a look at the tournament grounds. Ooh. Let's go look at the tournament grounds. To the east of Londinium,
proper, between Watling Street and Fleet Street, a large area of untilled fields has been marked out for the big New Year's tournament. The concept of tournament was the subject of much debate between Sir Ector and Sir Kay on the journey here. It is something new, something unfamiliar, and so Sir Ector is naturally suspicious. "'Tis but a Frankish thing, a custom for from the continent," he would sniff derisively. "No substitute for a proper battle. You use blunt weapons, you know. Where's the challenge in that?" "We use blunt weapons when we practice at home," Kay would counter. "I'm rather looking forward to the opportunity to go up against some of the greatest knights in Britain without having to risk life and limb. It sounds like jolly good fun. Besides, we do enough of the real thing. Too much, if you ask me. These tournaments, if they catch on, could be a good way for us to work out our aggressions without having to go to war all the time." Now, walking the grounds, you spot several interesting sights to explore. Looking at the tents, you notice several well-known standards flying from tent poles. Perhaps you might encounter a famous knight while walking in the aisles. Then there is the market, where you see vendor stalls and some kind of entertainment taking place. Judging from the shouting and the cheers, as well as the barking of large dogs, you would guess it is a bull baiting contest. Ugh. Lastly, and most curiously, you spot a corral filled with squires armed with staves. If you did not know better, you would say a fight is about to break out. Go to 92. Where would you like to go? Stroll amongst the knights' tents, or checking out the market and animal fights. See what the squires are doing. If you've suffered an injury and require treatment, if you've seen enough for the day, go to 121. I think we can probably do one thing without being late. The knights' tents? The market. Let's go to the market. He gave us a penny. We need to spend it. I probably should go to the knights' tents, but... As you move amongst the market stalls, you clearly hear savage barking, angry bellowing, and exciting... Is this just going to be about bull baiting? I don't know if I want to deal with bull baiting. That marks a bull baiting contest. You know of these by reputation, but have never seen one yourself. Your understanding is that a bull is secured by a chain, and a pack of mastiff-like war dogs, is set upon it, harrying it until it collapses from blood loss, at which point it is butchered and roasted. It's awful. Bets are placed on how long the bull will last, how many dogs will be injured or killed, and other gruesome unknowns. It is perhaps a mercy that the tight-packed gaggle of peasants blocks your view of the scene, if the horrible sounds coming from within the ring are any indication. As you listen, you see a familiar face walking towards you out of the crowd. It is Arthur. He is fighting back tears. "It's awful," he exclaims as he approaches you. "The bulls, the dogs. A hunt is one thing, but this is butchery." An idea of how to cause a bit of mischief and perhaps make things right forms in your mind. You could cause a distraction, allowing Arthur to sneak back and free the bull from its chain. This would bring the baiting to an end, but would cause a great deal of mayhem. Yes, I want to go ahead with this plan. Oh my goodness. All right. As Arthur moves back into the crowd to get in a position, you clamber up on top of a large barrel of ale and clear your throat. In order to catch the... Oh, I gotta use oratory, I bet. Yeah, dang it. What is my orate? I did put a couple points into it. In order to catch the audience's attention, you will have to succeed an orate roll. Before making the roll, you may attempt an unopposed merciful trait roll. Merciful is 13. A success earns you a check, but with a critical success, the trait check the trait and add +5 to orate before rolling. Although traits do not confer inspiration in the same degree as passions, a critical success at the right moment can impart a small bonus, as here. Okay, so I got to do a merciful trait first, but I have to roll a 13 on the dot to get any bonuses. I failed it, so I don't get any checks. I got to make an orate check. My orate's only a 9. 9! 9! It's a critical success! Holy crap! All right. I go to 98. Hold on. Skills are on 14, right? Success and failure. I don't know if I get... Seeing an opponent fails, your opponent succeeds. Seeing an opponent fails, now that's opposed checks. Darn it. I feel like that was a critical success. These are for traits. Oh, man. Okay, hold on. Modifiers and critical bonuses. No, those are critical bonuses.
I feel like I should get a check on that for a critical success. I'm giving myself a check. I got a freaking crit success on my orate. I moved people. You know it will take something really compelling to distract this crowd from their blood sport, and the idea quickly presents itself. Oyez! Oyez! The Lord Mayor sends his regards in the following announcement. Until further notice, all contests pitting animal against animal, animal against man, are herewith banned within an 8-furlong radius of the city walls. As you had hoped, your little speech pulls most of the crowd's attention. But you very quickly realize your miscalculation as you see the sea of angry faces looking up at you. Many begin hurling abuses at you, and a few hurl clods of dung, picked up off the ground as well. Then all is chaos as Arthur slips the bull's chain from its post and the frenzied animal charges into the crowd. It is every person for themselves. Your blood turns to ice as the crowd scatters and you see the bullock charging straight at you. Oh no. Make an opposed roll of your movement rate. Movement is a 17. I am a quick little guy versus the bull's charge of a 10. So my movement rate is 17. I got a 14 success. The bull's charge of a 10. He got a 16 of fail. If you win or tie, go to 100. If you lose, go to 1. If you fumble, I get to go to 100. The bull catches into the barrel you are standing on, but you have already leaped up and grabbed the overhead awning. Thankfully, it holds your weight long enough to allow the bull and dogs to charge past. As sergeants and knights come streaming in, you make yourself scarce. Go to 92. Yes, I'm so glad I picked that. That is awesome. Where would you like to go? I've seen enough for the day. Let's go to 121. I don't want to be around here because they are gonna come looking for us. I feel like Arthur and I need to make beat feet. The day, which began so early and has been so full of wonders, is catching up with you at last. Your senses buzzing, you make your way back to the inn and collapse into sleep at the foot of Sir Ector's bed. Tomorrow the tournament begins in earnest. By the end of the day, Britain will have a new High King. Go to 122. I want to go help. I want to be there when Arthur pulls a sword from the stone. Okay, it's a new day. The day dawns overcast and cold, but the city is already up to greet the weak sun. Such is the excitement for the New Year's tournament. Your morning at the inn is spent in a flurry of activity, gathering equipment needed for the tournament fight, helping Sir Ector prepare his hauberk, helm, and shield, feeding and preparing his charger down in the stables. That and countless other tasks which keep you running about non-stop. Until the sun is peeking up over the rooftops. Arthur's every bit as harried and hurried in his duties for Sir Kay. So it is with some sense of relief that you both mount your rouncies and fall in line behind your knights. You exchange smiles, letting your agitation give way to excitement. Along the way, Sir Ector briefs you. We are to be divided into two cohorts, the Red Knights and the Blue Knights, and will fight a mock battle called a melee. Knights earn, it's definitely a French term, Knights earn tally marks for performing great deeds on the field, such as knocking an opponent off their horse, taking a foe captive, or even performing a particularly thrilling display of martial prowess. The Lord Mayor of Londinium himself and the guild masters of the city sit as judges and keep a record of our marks. At the end of the day, the knight with the most tally marks is declared the Knight of Honor, and in this instance, acclaimed the new High King of Britain. As squires, you are to ride onto the field with us, but you are not to fight. Your job is to hold back and look for ways to assist us, to replace broken lance, to drag us off the field if we're knocked out, or to escort any prisoners we may capture back to the Reset, which is our end of the field. Your head spins with all the rules and new duties, but you are determined to do right by Sir Ector. At the tournament grounds, a large, noisy scrum has formed around the tables, where harried heralds are assigning overexcited knights to their cohorts. Ector and Kay dismount and take their place at the back of the mob. When you notice that Ector's without his sword, you grab it from his charger and hustle for it to help him belt it around his thick waist. He grunts in approval. Fetch my sword, says Kay absent-mindedly. Arthur turns pale. I forgot it back at the inn, Kay. Kay's face turns crimson with anger. Oh, Arthur, says Ector disapprovingly. Quick now, there's a good lad. Go back and get it, or your brother will be without his sword on the field. Arthur's off like a dart, shouting promises to be back with the sword in a twinkling. Minutes pass by. Ector and Kay give their names to the heralds and are assigned to the Red Knights. Kay keeps looking about for Arthur with murderous eyes. What could be keeping that inattentive fool? He turns to you. Go find the whelp and bring him back with my swords, or so help me. You do not need to be told twice. Go to 123. Most of Londinium is at the tournament, and you run through Newgate and down the city's empty streets. It's quite eerie, really. The city, filled with so many people just this morning, is now as quiet as a cemetery. Your heart is in your throat when you reach the inn. You find Arthur, but he sits against the floor, against the front door, head on his folded knees. He looks up at your approach, and you see his eyes are rimmed red. "They closed up the inn," he wails and bangs the door with his fist. "Everyone is at the tournament. I can't get Kay's sword, or what am I to do?" Your mind races, and several solutions suggest themselves. You could try to break into the inn. This is an emergency, and surely the Lord will forgive some petty larceny in the name of fetching Kay's sword. But then you suddenly remember there's another sword that no one's using. The one in the cathedral courtyard. um, let's see. If you want to break into the inn, 124. If you wish to tell Arthur about the sword in the stone, go to 125. If you wish to go retrieve the sword from the stone yourself, 126. No, let's tell Arthur. Let's tell Arthur about the sword in the stone. I mean, he probably can't get it out, but we can make the attempt first. You pull Arthur to his feet. "Sir Ector showed me another sword in the courtyard of St. Paul's, down yonder," but you were about to say it was stuck in an anvil. But before you can finish your sentence, Arthur bolts down the empty street towards the cathedral. "He will see for himself soon enough," you say to yourself as you take off after him. You arrive at the empty courtyard gate in time to see Arthur approaching the sword in the stone, his hand extended. This is going to make me cry. I get to be there. For a light snow begins to fall. Go to 127. You watch as he steps up to the stone, reaches out, and lightly closes his hand around the sword's hilt. There's a sound of steel scraping on metal, and your mouth falls open as Arthur pulls the sword straight out of the anvil as if it were from an oiled scabbard. Arthur's face splits into a wild grin, and he beams at you. "You've saved my skin, no mistake," he says, and off he goes again, this time back to the tournament grounds. You follow in mute shock. Surely someone must have loosened it. Sorry. This is like a huge moment. Huge moment, and I love that they've put it in here. You arrive back at the tournament grounds to find Sir Kay pacing up and down the sidelines. Most of the knights are already on the field, and the sound of cheering crowds fills your ears. The melee has begun. "What in the name of Jesu took you so long?" he bellows. In the next moment, he sees the swords in Arthur's hands. "And whose sword is that?" "I found it, Kay," says Arthur, fighting for breath. "It's a good sword, I promise." Kay takes it in his hand and gives it a couple swings, looking impressed despite his anger. Before he can say anything else, though, Sir Ector rides up and practically jumps off his horse. "Kay, where'd you get that sword? Kay, where did you get that sword?" His eyes are wide with astonishment. "I found it, father," says Kay without hesitation. "You found it?" says Ector, somewhat incredulous. "Well, no, he did." Kay points to Arthur, and Ector takes his youngest son by the shoulders, looking him square in the eye. "Is what Kay said true, son?" says Ector, his voice husky with emotion. "Yes, father, please don't be mad at me. This is all my fault. I stole the sword from the courtyard at St. Paul's. I shall put it back at once if you'll only let me." Arthur's wails of protest draw the attention of several nearby knights, who themselves have not yet entered the melee. One, an aging man of regal bearing, who wears the arms of Camelard on his surcoat, rushes forward. "What's that? He's drawn it! The sword? The sword in the stone?" Others quickly take up the cry. "The sword! He's drawn the sword!" The news spreads like fire across ripened wheat fields. "I don't believe it! I have to see this for myself! Make it yard again! To the churchyard!" Then all is madness. A throng of people surges away from the tournament grounds towards the city. Sir Ector throws Arthur on the back of his nervous Rouncy. "Ride for St. Paul's and put that sword back, lad. Put it back," Ector says with fear in his eyes. "You'd best do the same," Ector shouts at you, "lest you be trampled. Hop on." You swing onto the saddle behind Arthur and join the press of knights streaming through Newgate. Fortunately, with your head start, you can avoid the worst of the press. Go to 130. Man, we are making our way. 442, we got about 20 minutes. This is getting me emotional. Murmuring crowds of horses, commoners, clergymen, knights, squires, lords, and ladies pack St. Paul's courtyard and surround the cathedral steps in a wide arc. Luckily, you and Arthur made it just in time before they arrived. You dismount and approach the anvil and stone with Arthur. A single horn sounds. The crowd suddenly grows quiet as you see two wizened old men being escorted from the rectory to the top of the cathedral stairs behind the anvil and stone. One is dressed in a gilded bishop's cassock, the other in ragged, filthy robes. "It's the Archbishop, Saint Dubricus," someone shouts from the crowd. "Ave Sanctus Dubricus, Ave," cries a pious Roman lady, hands clasped. That's a terrible, pious little Roman lady voice. The old man kindly smiles and makes the sign of the cross in the air. Dozens of, oh, sorry, it goes like that. Yeah, that's for me. This is for others. Dozens of people drop to their knees to accept, oh, to accept the blessing. And that's Merlin, the Archdruid of Britain, standing next to him. Why is he... Oh, sorry, this is Sir Ector. And that's Merlin, the Archdruid of Britain, standing next to him. Why is he here? Says Sir Ector with a haunting look. With a haunted look, finally catching up to you and Arthur with a mounted Sir Kay close behind. You notice that Merlin and Ector were looking at each other with deep meaning. It's because Merlin brought Arthur to Ector. Then, with the crowd looking on, Arthur replaces the sword. He slips it back into the slot in the anvil with a metallic hiss. He steps back and watches the courtyard fill with more knights, fresh from the tournament melee. Many are dripping sweat, and some nurse minor wounds. Arthur looks very young all of a sudden beside the sword and the stone. A mighty man, powerful built of build and arrogant of aspect, jumps from his saddle. You know this man by reputation. It is King Lot of Lothian, one of the greatest warriors in all of Britain. Oh man, maybe I could have met him. He shoves Arthur aside. If this thing is going to move, it'll move for me, he declares to the crowd. Lot, 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 his household knights chant in encouragement. He grabs the hilt with both mailed hands and puts all of his bear-like strength into the effort, but the sword will not move. He tries again with no success, his face now red with exertion and frustration. Let the boy try, someone shouts. Was it Merlin? And then many more shout in agreement. Yes, let the boy try. Lot stares down at Arthur with angry eyes and steps aside to rejoin his knights. Sir Ector, now beside Arthur, nods to him, and Arthur lays one hand gently upon the sword and easily pulls it from the anvil. The crowd, noble and commoner alike, gasps. He then slides it back into place. Another knight dismounts and shouts, It is my turn. I, King Uriens of Gore, shall pull the sword, and pushes his way to the rock. Like Lot before him, Uriens grabs the sword and tugs, pulls, and then tries to manhandle it free, giving his full armored shoulder to the task, but the sword does not budge. As Uriens walks away flustered, the lad again steps up and pulls the sword effortlessly free. The High King! Someone shouts. He's the High King! It's the prophecy! The boy drew the sword, shouts King Leodegrance to the crowd. This boy is the Pendragon! A few people in the crowd lower to their knees. Not while I live, shouts Lot, who draws his own sword and strides towards Arthur. His bodyguards dismount and fall into place a few steps behind him. You are the one who saw Arthur pull the sword the first time. You now see Lot advancing with murder in his eyes. You know the right thing to do is speak up in Arthur's defense, but can you summon the courage in this moment of decision? Make a valorous versus cowardly roll. My valorous is 15. Come on. Ah. 12. Yes, I made it. All right, I don't have to make the cowardly since I made the valorous. Thank God. Hold on. I'm double checking to make sure I'm doing this right. I don't think I have to roll both if I can make one. All right. I succeeded at valorous. Check it. If you oh. I don't think I have to make both rolls, do I? It's usually about which trade to roll against charge. Failed your roll against just, make a second roll against. So you only make the second roll if you fail the first one. Where are we? We're at like 130. I just closed the book. I succeeded at valorous. Let's go to 131. Wait! You cry, arms wide. Standing between King Lot and Arthur. Yes! You really can be a hero in this game. Lot halts, turning his furious gaze on you. You swallow hard and then continue. I saw Arthur, this youth here, pull the sword the first time. None of you could pull it when you tried. He is our new king. Lot takes 2 steps towards you and strikes you with his mailed left hand, inflicting 6 points of damage. Holy crap, that hurts. It is like being struck by a boulder. You feel your back teeth crack, and you drop to the ground as blood gushes from the gash in your cheek. The blow ignites the passions of all assembled, and a terrific melee suddenly breaks out as knights from many different kingdoms rush toward the cathedral steps. Through a sickening red haze, you see Arthur pull the blade once more, and it seems to your eyes that the steel flashes with a strange ghost light. Arthur then steadies himself against the anvil and defends himself against Lot. 133. We've gone all the way down. We got to see how this plays out. We have 10 minutes. Now King Leodegrance and his men and a half dozen other kings and many, many knights swarm between King Lot and Arthur. "The boy drew the sword," says Leodegrance. "He is by right the Pendragon of Britain." "No beardless boy shall ever be my king," shouts King Lot. "Nor mine," says someone. "Nor mine," comes another voice. "I say he is my king," shouts Leodegrance, and he suddenly kneels before Arthur and prefers his sword. Arthur, with tears streaming down his face, gently takes it, saying, "Oh man, I'm losing my shit here," with a strangely mature countenance, "As I am king, I accept your offer." Lot, seeing that seeing that he and his men are surrounded and outnumbered, throws his blunted sword to the ground with a clatter. "I'll be back with a sword that won't fail me," he says, baring his teeth, and leaps atop his horse. His guards pivot and spur their steeds, nearly trampling those left in the crowd. Others are doing the same, and a reproachful howl goes up from the crowd as they go. "Hail, King Arthur!" shouts Ector, thrusting his sword aloft. "The whelp? The whelp!" cries Sir Kay, shouting astonishment. "Hail, King Arthur!" echoes the crowd, and now Kay joins in. Kay joins in as well. "Hail, King Arthur!" And again, "Hail, King Arthur!" You look up to see Archbishop Dubricus on the cathedral steps, and catch him nodding and smiling at Merlin, who smiles back and bows his head. Merlin's eyes suddenly dart to yours, and he winks at you, then disappears among the throng. Oh, here we go. There it is. That's the scene. That's awesome. There's Kay. No, there's Ector. I think that's Ector. There's Ector. Merlin. You shake your head in amazement at the cheering crowds who have now lifted Arthur on their shoulders. It looks like your dear friend Arthur, with whom you've shared a bench, muck stables, and polished armor, is now to be the High King of Britain. Wow. That's powerful stuff. That's strong. That was neat. But what will be your fate, young squire, if you successfully freed the bull, did it, and tried to pull the sword from the stone for Arthur, or defended Arthur against King Lot? Go to 135. I did 2 of those 3 things. "We must knight you first, I suppose," Sir Ector says to Arthur amidst the jostling and tumult. Arthur nods slowly as everything sinks in, then turns to you. "And I will need a squire I can trust," he says, a twinkle in his eye. You grin at each other. You have 7 years of service as King Arthur's squire ahead of you, and in time you may well be knighted. Your actions during this adventure presage your future. What kind of a knight would you like to be? Go to 134. You have played a part, however small, in the birth of a new era. The boy king, as Arthur will soon be called, has many challenges ahead, but his reign will leave its mark on Britain and the world forever. Go through the prompts on Table 2, okay, Story Awards, and tally up your points, positive and negative, and then compare them to the totals given on Table 3. What kind of knight are you? Your final score determines how far you are fated to rise in the knightly hierarchy. If you died during the adventure, you may still tally up your points. Legacies are an important part of Pendragon gameplay experience, and you may view your total as to how fondly you are remembered. Alright, so for each skill check, I got 2 skill checks, so that's worth 4 points. Let's write tally. For each passion check, I have 1. That's worth 3 points. For each chivalrous trait check, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are worth 2 points each, so that's 8. For each other trait check, what other traits are there? That's pretty much everything. If you killed the boar single-handed, no. If the noblewoman gave you her favor, no. If you set the bull free, yes, that's 1. For each round you withheld damage dice in the bowhort, which I didn't. For each opponent you defeated in the bowhort, that I think was the squires fighting with staves. If you told Arthur about the sword and the stone, plus 2. If you tried to retrieve the sword and the stone from before Arthur, plus 3. If you defended Arthur in the face of Lot's anger, that's 3. that would have been great to go and try to get the sword for him, I guess. But I'm very modest, so I wouldn't have thought I could pull it. If King Arthur made you his squire, 5. If you lingered in the lands of the good folk, never got there. For each check opposed to religious or chivalrous trait, no. If you were tardy returning Sir Ector exploring the sea, I don't think I was. I didn't go very far. If your Bohort opponent died, no. If you broke into the inn to get Kay's sword, is a -1, because that's a bad thing to do. For staying quiet, as King Lot attacked Arthur, -1. So my total is significant. 4 and 3 is 7, and 8 is 15. 16, 18, 21, 26. That feels like a lot. More than 18. Knights of the Round Table. You are knighted by Sir Ector or King Arthur and go on to a great career. You are among the first to receive the personal invitation of the king to join his esteemed martial order, the Knights of the Round Table, a few years hence. Your name is destined to be remembered in tales. Heck yes! That was so much fun! Oh, I want to play this game more. Whew. This is the most fun I've ever had playing Pendragon, and I've played a few games and they were a lot of fun, and this was just freaking cool. I loved being there at the beginning when before Arthur was king. I love the Sword in the Stone, the story, the book, and the movie. Um, I love that I was friends with Arthur. I love that I became a knight of the Round Table. I'm all choked up here. This is like the ultimate ending, I think, um, for this kind of thing. I want it to be like this good knight, this great knight, and gosh, yeah, that was fun. I need to go over the rules for traits again a few times in my head, but I have a ton of old Pendragon stuff. I've been collecting the old Pendragon books for first, second, third, mostly first, second, third edition, a little bit from fourth. But I've been not really. Pendragon was released by Chaosium. Eventually, Green Ronin started. I believe Green Ronin started putting out books for it. I'm just not as interested in their books as the Chaosium books. So I'm trying to collect all of those. Uh, this was a hoot. This was so much fun. The Adventure of the Sword in the Stone. One of my favorite parts of the whole King Arthur storyline, and that's because it was at the beginning. Things get really dramatic and tragic later on towards the end, but wow. But that gave me a really good introduction to the game. A really nice kind of start to your Pendragon game. So let's write down on here tally 26 exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. So that was a lot of fun. We got that done in 2 hours. I don't feel like we rushed through. I didn't look at a lot of the stuff in London either because I was really anxious about about Arthur pulling the sword from the stone. To be quite honest, once we got to Londinium, I was like, oh, I want to be there when he pulls it out. So bad. I wanted that so bad, and we got it. So that was fun. That was cool. If that's how a lot of the Pendragon games go, that was a blast. That was just so much fun. And knowing the Arthur stories and the original Sword in the Stone story, and I'm not as familiar with Mort Arthur. I should probably get a copy of that, but yeah, that was a blast. That was so much fun. I really, really enjoyed that. So that's it. That is the solo scenario from the starter set, Pendragon by Greg Stafford. Rest in peace, Greg Stafford. And yeah, so it looks like next week. Next week we're going to try something a little different. We're going to go for The Thing in the Darkness, which was published in um, Fantasy Gamer number 3 back in 1983. So this is technically, next week technically is going to be the very first Call of Cthulhu solo scenario. Uh, and I don't know how long that'll take. I can't believe it'll take. It was published in a magazine. I can't believe it'll take us more than one session to do it. But that's what the plan is for next week. And then very briefly, from there we are going to go to probably Alone on Halloween, which was published in 1992. I'm debating whether or not to save that until October, but I think we'll probably be done with most of these by October.
And then we'll be back to then we're up to the newer ones: Alone Against the Flames, 2015; Alone Against the Dark, 2017. So it'll be a replay of that. We got to figure out how to make that work if we can. If we can't, then we'll move on to the next one, which is Overdue from Beit Al-Azif magazine, 2018, and then Alone Against the Frost, which was published in 2019. Once we get done with all these, we're done. I have to go back to video games because, quite frankly, this is all there is. There's not a whole lot of solo Call of Cthulhu scenarios, and that's what I enjoy. I don't want to really play D&D scenarios that are solos, or Hackmaster. I'm just not interested in that kind of stuff. So those are the only other ones that I think I've really ever seen. If anybody's watching this who does know of any other solo scenarios that would work for Call of Cthulhu, and I've already played Grimrock Isle, and when I play a scenario, it becomes part of the history of my campaign world, so I don't generally replay it as a rule. But that's the plan at this juncture. It's 4:59. We're just under 2 hours, so you can play this in 2 hours. I don't feel like I rushed. I did get lost, didn't get to deal with the boar. I didn't hit probably quite as many things in London because I didn't want to be late, and it wouldn't have mattered. I made enough points that I could have been late. But we wrapped up, wow, just in time, which is kind of cool. So that was the Adventure of the Sword and the Stone, where we became the squire to King Arthur, and later on a Knight of the Round Table. That was fun. It was pretty awesome. And yeah, so thanks for watching, everybody. As always, I appreciate it. And I guess I will talk to y'all next time. Bye.